Hello, I'm Sky Matsuhashi, founder of SmartPokerStudy.com, the place for poker players who are always striving to be better today than they were yesterday. Poker people, don't miss out on episode 86, where I answered 6 listener questions from the Ace High Poker Group about gaining poker XP, bubble dominance, and blind stealing, along with a few other topics. Hey, poker people, it's been a while.
Yeah, yes, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while since the last time.
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, I remember.
Whoa, yeah, it's been far too long since I've done a Tuesday strategy podcast. Well, we be back, baby. Hope you're ready. Thanks for sharing with your friends, as word of mouth is how we grow. So keep telling them, share it in Facebook and Twitter, subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and if you're listening in YouTube, please hit that subscribe button directly below. Alrighty, so today begins a brand new podcast series that might last upwards of maybe 25 episodes or so. And wow, now that I say that, that's actually about half a year if I do one per week. I might throw in some bonus ones here and there to get through it a little bit quicker. But each episode will be self-contained, and it's not like you need to hear them all to grasp the concepts I'm going to be talking about. The series is called the MEDs of Poker. MED is an acronym for Minimum Effective Dose, and this is an idea that I was first introduced to in Tim Ferriss's book called The 4-Hour Body. This was a great book, and the basic idea behind the whole thing, it was actually quite revolutionary to me. The book centered around the minimum effective doses needed to reshape your body and get super healthy. He discussed MEDs surrounding exercise, nutrition, and supplementation. He defined the minimum effective dose as the smallest dose that will produce a desired outcome. He went on to use some just perfect examples of MEDs, He says that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit, so higher temperatures won't make it more boiled. They'll just consume more resources. And another example he uses, 15 minutes in the sun triggers a melanin response, so if you want to do some tanning. So any more time and your skin starts to break down, which could result in a forced break from the sun due to sunburn. And 80 seconds is the dose prescription for exercise. And I won't explain that one here. You've got to read the 4-Hour Body for yourself to understand what that is. But that's what he comes up with as the minimum effective dose for exercise, 80 seconds. So with this whole idea in mind, I created a list of poker's top 10 MEDs, or the simplest concepts that will provide the maximum benefit with minimal effort. This list is intended as a roadmap for you to follow to increase your poker skill set. If you challenge yourself to study, understand, and use these MEDs in your poker career, then you will find success and you'll be better than 95% of the players that you face. The Japanese have a word for constant and never-ending improvement. The word is kaizen. Kaizen is a philosophy handed down for thousands of years between warriors and is now followed by high achievers in business, sports, hobbies, and the arts, and now poker. I want you to adopt a philosophy of kaizen towards poker. In your quest for constant and never-ending improvement, I want you to ask yourself every day these 3 questions. How can I improve my poker game today? What can I study that will bring me the most gains? And what leaks do I have that I can fix right now? I want you to commit to the philosophy of Kaizen and seek daily improvement in your poker skills. And the Japanese also have another word, ganbatte, which means good luck and succeed and get it done and get her done and do your best, all rolled into one. So on your poker journey of Kaizen, I say to you, ganbatte! So let's dive into this concept of poker's minimum effective doses. Make sure you hit the show notes page for everything I discussed today at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pod87. While you're there, you can sign up for the weekly Boost for exclusive strategy content delivered directly to your inbox. Now here it is, today's podcast mission. My mission for today is to give you my list of MEDs of poker and to explain the rationale behind the items on the list and the order that they're in. This way, you can get started sooner rather than later studying all 10 items. The first should be studied before the second before the third, and so on. I will also give you a great resource to help you begin your studies into the very first MED. Take the time right now to answer this question for yourself before we get to today's podcast. Now, the question is, what do you think the top 10 MEDs of poker are? Quickly jot them down in the order you think they should be studied and mastered before you continue with this podcast. So this is the first in a long series of podcasts all about the MEDs of poker. So I figured I would start by discussing the full list and how I will approach the upcoming episodes. There are 10 MEDs in total, and each one will end up being 2 to 3 episodes long. The reason for this is that there's so much to discuss for each MED, and trying to hit it all in one podcast would make each one like an hour long or even more. I think that breaking each one up into bite-sized pieces will help you learn more efficiently and effectively. Here is my list of poker's top 10 MEDs. Number 1, opening theory and ranges. Number 2, stealing and the math associated. Number 3, 3-bet theory. Number 4, blind play. Number 5, player types and tendencies. Number 6, Cbet Theory. Number 7, post-flop math, including odds and outs and the maths associated with that. Number 8, check raises and donk bets, or out-of-position play. Number 9, hand reading. Number 10 is poker mindset. And the great thing about this list is that each item builds upon the previous, and tackling one naturally leads to the next. It's kind of like the domino effect that I discussed way back in episode number 3 when I talked about the book called The One Thing. With each of the upcoming MED podcasts, I will answer one central question. How will studying and understanding this concept improve my game? Do you remember the time back in episode 82? Do you remember the time? That reminds me of the King of Pop. You know, I'm not really a fan of the man, but I love his music and his moves. Say what you want about him, that dude could groove. So, anywho, back in episode 82, I discussed asking the right questions in poker. Well, if I'm able to answer that important question for each MED, and that important question was, how will studying and understanding this concept improve my game? If I'm able to answer that question fully in a way that you understand, you see the significance and decide to study this further for yourself, then I've done my job and you're on your way to poker excellence one MED at a time. Kaizen and Gambate! Alrighty, let's hit each of these MEDs for a quick description of what you can expect to learn in the upcoming podcast. You can find the complete list in the show notes at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pod87. Okay, so MED number 1 was opening theory and ranges. I will show you how to develop opening ranges from these positions: EP, cutoff, button, and the small blind. I will also give you the ranges that I play with. We will figure out the bet sizing for your opens, isolations, regular 3-bets, and squeezes, in talking both in position and out of position. I will show you through additional companion videos how to use Flopzilla and Equilab to help you work with ranges and learn the equities of a hand versus a range and a range versus another range. MED number 2 is stealing and the math associated. So stealing is a valuable play in all forms of poker. I'll teach you the math behind steal bets. Mostly it's break-even math, like my 4 big blind bluff has to work X% of the time, and I'll show you why it's important to be stealing quite often. MED number 3 is 3-bet theory. 3-betting is an important skill that we need to understand in today's aggressive games. We all know it's a super huge part of every game that we play. We will develop 3-bet ranges and 3-bet defending ranges. MED number 4 is blind play. Players defend the blinds pretty darn wide nowadays, and for very good reason. You need to understand how and when to defend, and how to exploit those who defend too much or just not enough. We'll discuss blind versus blind confrontations as well. MED number 5 is player types and tendencies. I'll discuss each basic player type, their tendencies, and how to exploit them. We'll also get into the common ranges these players play, and how our ranges fare versus theirs. And we'll also discuss the very important concept of doing things differently from the majority of the opponents at the table in order to make money off of those opponents. If they're all playing a tag style, we want to deviate from that and do a different or play a different style that will take money off of them tag players. So before we continue on with the list of MEDs, it's time for a quick Patreon plug. If you support me on Patreon before August 31st, you'll get a podcast, a video, and a webinar all about rejamming in MTTs. I'll discuss doing so for value, as bluffs, to build your stack near the bubble, to take advantage of those limp folding fish common at lower stakes MTTs, all that and a whole lot more. Supporting at the $5 level will get you the podcast, the $15 level will get you the video, and the $50 level will get you the webinar. And of course, everything else, the $50 level will get you the webinar, the video, and the podcast. Additionally, if you support at the $20 level or higher, you'll get a copy of my first ebook, which will be completed and ready by mid-September. And the price on that ebook will probably be $19.99 anyway. So basically, you're breaking even on the deal. You'll get the video and the podcast and the book for the same price as just the book. I don't have a title for it yet, but it'll be Studying Poker and all the techniques I use to improve my game. So you get some rewards based on the level of your support. The more support, or the more you support, the more you get. I've also set some big monthly goals. If you help me hit these, you'll hear more strategy content in the form of more questions answered, longer podcasts, or even more frequently scheduled podcasts. Who knows, with your help, I might be podcasting 5 days per week. So to learn more or to support me, please visit www.patreon.com/smartpokerstudy. Alrighty, back to the MEDs. We ended off with MED number 5, player types and tendencies. MED number 6 is Cbet Theory, and this is both making and defending against Cbets. So some of the things that you'll learn is when should we Cbet or just not to Cbet, and what to continue with and why to continue versus a Cbet. We'll also discuss the math behind Cbets. We'll get into board textures and how different ranges react or hit different boards. And of course, we'll get into double and triple barreling as bluffs and for value. And of course, with this, there will be some additional companion videos included. MED number 7 is post-flop math, which will be talking a lot about odds and outs. I'll teach you to calculate your outs and the odds of hitting your hand. We'll discuss what hands are good to chase and which aren't. And there's a hint, it revolves around the odds of hitting and the opponent you're up against. We'll dive into the math of determining if your call or semi-bluff is a profitable one. We'll also learn about the 2 rules of poker that I learned from Ed Miller's book, Poker's 1%. MED, minimum effective dose number 8, is check raises and donk bets. Because we are targeting players at the table, defending the blinds widely, and we're getting called by weak players, we need to know how to play out of position post-flop. MED number 9 is hand reading. I've talked a lot about this in the past, but we'll dive into it a bit more because this really is a crucial skill that we need to develop in order to make it to the mid-stakes and beyond. And MED number 10, of course, is poker mindset. I've discussed this in lots of other podcasts, but having a growth mindset is key. Part of this will be understanding and accepting variance, something that I haven't discussed yet at all. We'll get more into Kaizen and working to constantly improve your game. We'll discuss my favorite question of all time as well, and that question is, what am I doing wrong? Okay, those are the 10 MEDs, and I'm really looking forward to this series, and I hope you are as well. I'm about to end this sucker, but before I do, I want to give you a little something for MED number 1, opening theory and ranges. So, some of you have never used ranges before. Sure, you've heard me discuss them in the podcast, but you may have just said, that ain't for me. Maybe it was too complicated, maybe you didn't fully understand, maybe you forgot, maybe you didn't want to take the time. Whatever the case, the buck stops here. All of that crap stops right now. To help you with getting on the pre-flop range bandwagon, or just to open your eyes to someone else's well-crafted ranges, Doug Hull over there at redchippoker.com created some awesome pre-flop range infographics. These puppies give you recommendations, both tight and loose, for opening, calling, and 3-betting pre-flop. The ranges themselves come from Ed Miller's book, The Course, but Doug put them together in a lovely, easy-to-follow infographic. You can see and download these infographics at redchippoker.com under their strategy articles, or you can go to www.smartpokerstudy.com/Doug Hull Ranges, and Hull is Hull, and go there to be taken directly to redchippoker.com, or you can click the link in the show notes. Let's take a look at one of the ranges that he gives you. The loose button opening range is 33.3%, or 442 combos of hands. That sounds pretty darn good to me. I like that percentage right there. Lots of steal hands mixed in with value hands in this range. It includes almost all aces, suited kings and queens, lots of suited connectors and gappers, as well as the strongest offsuit Broadway hands. It's a pretty solid opening range, I think. So within this loose button opening range of 33%, there's actually 116 combos, which are 3-betting hands, and we're looking out of that 116 hands, we're looking at about 40 combos that could be considered bluffs or semi-bluffs. They're hands like 7-5 suited, 9-7 suited, ace-deuce suited through ace-5 suited, and some suited broadways. The great thing about having so many semi-bluffing hands in your 3-bet range is that it ups the aggression when you have ultimate position on the button, and it makes it hard for your opponents to read you. They have no idea what you're coming in with when they call your 3-bet and they end up seeing 7-5 suited for flop straight. They're going to, what the heck is this guy 3-betting? And so having all of your bluffs be suited and connected, or gappers, makes them more like semi-bluffs in that they can spike big hands and can be used to push weaker ranges off their hands post-flop with lots of drawing equity. So I highly recommend downloading and using Doug Hull's infographic over there at redchippoker.com by going through www.smartpokerstudy.com/DougHullRanges or hitting the show notes and clicking through there. So next week, we will fully dive into MED number 1, opening theory and ranges. Challenge! Here's my challenge to you for this episode. Remember that list of 10 MEDs I asked you to write at the beginning of the podcast during the mission? Well, let me know how and why your list differed from mine. I'd love to get your input into my list of poker MEDs and how you would rather it be organized. Who knows, your input might open my eyes to something new I haven't thought of. Kaizen in action, always working to improve and open to suggestions. Now it's your turn to take action and gambate!
Now get it on.
So if you're not already there, head on over to the show notes at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pod87 for screenshots and links to everything mentioned today. I think this podcast is the start of a valuable resource to all of you looking to improve your skills. The top 10 MEDs will be your roadmap to poker improvement by studying the most important concepts that will give you the biggest boost to your skills. Thank you so much for listening today. I want your feedback, so hit me with it through the show notes, or you can also send one of them emails to sky@smartpokerstudy.com, tweet me @smartpokerstudy, or post it in the Facebook group at www.smartpokerstudy.com/discuss. And please send me your questions, any leaks that you have, or ideas for podcast topics through all the channels just mentioned. And I've got to give a quick shout out to Eric Anderson. He recently purchased PT4, or Poker Tracker 4, through my affiliate link, and for doing that, I sent him my Smart HUD for free. Thanks for your support, Eric. You rock hard, buddy. If you'd like to get PT4 and a copy of my Smart HUD for yourself, and of course PT4 and the Smart HUD will aid your online play on sites like ACR, Merge, Party Poker, 888, PokerStars, Winamax, and many others, just visit www.smartpokerstudy.com/pokertracker4 to learn more and to purchase this ultimate piece of poker software. Alrighty, poker people, be sure to come back this Friday for another Q&A or answer some of your insightful questions. Word of mouth is the best advertising, so thanks so much for sharing this show with other poker people. Your sharing and caring is what helps us grow. Until next time, study smart, play much, and make your next session the best one yet.